Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Hello everyone, I'm Jared Benibajo, second year Bachelor of Science in Architecture student, and welcome to my TED Talk, Purposive Communication Activity number 2. Way past the deadline. We were tasked to react to several TED Talks and write about it. The first one being Julian Treasure's 5 Ways to Listen Better. In the talk, Julian talks about communication, and communication isn't all about talking. Listening is important, if not more. I know myself as a very good listener simply because I don't talk a lot. But does that make me a good communicator? No, it doesn't. Because I am just taking information from one ear out the other. And from the talk, he said, we spend roughly 60% of our communication time listening, but we're not very good at it. We retain just 25% of what we hear. Like a fleeting bird trying to get out to freedom but realizes it can't fly because it's a chicken. The chicken's airtime was a metaphor, or well actually a simile, of the quarter of information we retain. Where that information is stuck in is the memory, and we tend to remember not the entire information but how we feel about the information absorbed. However, what makes you a better communicator is by understanding, and through understanding, we create connections. But there wouldn't be any connections without the intention to understand, and the intent to understand creates connections. Listening to anything unintentionally turns any sound into white noise, and your brain would just interpret it as nothing. Silence. Quiet. That would be broken when someone makes a sound, or you focus on a specific sound, like on someone you're talking to, or when someone is talking to you, someone who is talking to you. Based on my interpretation, I made my 5 ways to listen better. That is intent, understanding, connection, silence, and focus. Now that we're done talking about how you would listen better, how about getting people to listen to you? Following Julian Treasure, he talks about how to speak so that people would want to listen, as opposed to the previous 5 ways to listen better. He first stated the 7 deadly sins of speaking. Gossip, I don't do that a lot. Judging, I do it often but I don't care at the end of the day. Negativity, trust me, I just sound negative for comedic purposes. Complaining, I'm Filipino, what's not to complain about? Excuses, I don't know, maybe I just don't have the energy. Lying, I'll get 0 benefits from lying, so I'll just say I don't know. And dogmatism, what does that mean? Okay, let me see. A viewpoint or system of ideas based on insufficiently examined premises. Huh. Like the spread of Christianity. Oh, okay. Sounds like it. Sounds like it indeed. He created an acronym called HAIL. HAIL, in this definition, means to greet and acclaim enthusiastically. For example, Oi. HAIL, but in its meaning, HAIL stands for honesty, authenticity, integrity, and love. Honesty, just be straight and clear. Authenticity, be yourself. Integrity, be your word. And love, to wish him well. Though, just to be clear, I'm not entirely straight. I am, however, a brutally honest person. And I can say anything honestly, but more often I do it, the more I realize I have to keep my tone as nice as I can, unless they're asking for it. Every human voice has the strongest trait in a form of creating, destroying, and managing worlds. And people tend to listen more and be more convinced to a person speaking in a lower register because it conveys power and authority, so he says. Timbre is used in music, and it's a concept that I still can't wrap my head around, but Julian did mention vocal training, something that I am aware of. Prosody conveys some sort of movement which, if translated to music theory, is like a chord progression. Pace is like the tempo of the song, and some songs actually change their tempo to make it somewhat dynamic, as well as their pacing of the song. You could be fast, you could be slow, you could be silent so that you could let your listeners sink in the information that sink in the information you just have given to them. You could also do that. Though you must be careful not to stumble around and choke. Just like I did in the middle of those edits. Those weird cuts, yeah, I choked. The voice's pitch can make suggestions regarding what you mean and what you express. Finally, volume is something I am trying my best to control. Maybe I'm not loud enough or I can't actually hear my own loudness. It is one thing I am trying to improve by practicing and warming up. As we talked about listening better, we should also not listen to negativity. We should, however, speak powerfully to get people to listen. The voice also has the power to convince others to do their bidding or put them in a higher political power where they can do some sort of questionable things. So, vote smart and vote for science. And when both of you are listening and engaged with the conversation, here's 10 ways to have a better one. People perform a back and forth communication because of course we can and of course we have to. And the speaker stated that we teenagers are more likely to text anyone than to talk to them face to face. And given that this was filmed in 2021, the likeliness to just text is higher. And if this continues, theoretically, younger generations would have trouble meeting new people and even potential friends. There is no reason to learn how to show you're paying attention if you are in fact paying attention. Actually, that's a really good quote. She stated her 10 ways to be a better conversationalist as 1. Don't multitask. This is one I personally have trouble with. I either get easily distracted when I'm in the middle of a conversation or I scramble around my library of memories looking for a good topic to talk about just to break the silence between us. In fact, I'm actually reading this. I wrote a script so I wouldn't lose my train of thought. 2. Don't pontificate. No one likes a one-sided argument, let alone a conversation where one doesn't know how to reply because the topic is too advanced for their understanding or they don't understand it at all. You need to have a conversation or a topic where both of you have a middle ground to communicate with each other, where you can relate or vibe with one another. 3. Use open-ended questions. Questions that anyone can reply openly. And it starts with a what, when, where, who, why is Gamora. How can it not be answered with a yes or no? Give them a question they can think about, but don't give them a chance to answer with a yes or no. Or 4. Go with the flow. This is another one I have trouble with, but now has somehow fixed itself. Back then, I used to lose track of the conversation because maybe it wasn't interesting enough. Maybe I spaced out. Maybe I got distracted. Or maybe I connected something that wasn't even supposed to be in the conversation. It is best to go with the flow of the conversation and try not to branch myself out of the conversation. 5. If you don't know, say you don't know. Socrates said, "All I know is I know nothing." Similarly, in the East, Tongzi said, "To know everything is to know nothing, and to know nothing is to know everything." It's a paradox of knowledge, and it takes a little bit of humility to tell others that you don't know. And it's okay not to know something. 6. Don't equate your experience with theirs. You don't know how much an experience can change a person. I once had an issue on this and I just went and chose to shut up after that. That time I knew the universe doesn't revolve around me and I am not the very best that no one ever was. Going back to that experience made me realize that I pretty much needed humility to be on the same level as everyone. Because I'm not. I could be lower, I could be higher than anyone else. And 7. Try not to repeat yourself. I have a problem with keeping track of the conversation to the point where I actually have to prepare a lot. Oh my god. That I have to prepare a lot just to have a good flowing conversation with another person and try to match their interests. I also find it annoying and exhausting to talk to myself, having to listen to an unending repeating string of words that can only be broken with self-awareness. 8. Stay out of your ears. No one other than the therapist or a comedy audience would want to hear about what happened in December of 2013, no matter how funny it was to remember. 9. Listen. Like I said earlier, I hate repeating, and we should listen to with intent to understand, and the intention to understand creates connections, and that's why you should listen. And 10. Be brief. Be interested in things because who knows, it might surprise you. And absorb as much information in the smallest time possible, and that's how you become a better conversationalist. And I think that video was pretty damn good. The dangers of silence. I know a thing or two about silence in my personal experience because I have been silent for a long time now, that I can hear people's thoughts, but I mostly focus on my own noise so that I wouldn't be overwhelmed. Silence shouldn't be a source of shame. That is why discriminated cultures feel proud whenever someone speaks up with their views. Speech is important with communication, and as you hear what the speaker says, silence in the face of evil is evil itself. Everything exacerbates when no one is speaking up. What is worse than the villains in the story are the ones who are not doing anything about it. Bystanders, passers-by, background people, people who do not know the ethics of a bad government, the ones who are supporting the villains for whatever reason. Why is Bong Revilla in the Senate? Is one of the questions that should be answered by a smart filter. One who is able to point out whatever is erroneous and communicate with everyone who says otherwise. When no one is speaking, there's a cacophony of conflict. Shut up. When no one is speaking, there's a cacophony of conflict. Ideas would just be flying around, and there would just be dissonance until someone decides to speak and create stability among the noise. Silence creates evil. Silence is a manifestation of fear. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering, and we're all suffering differently in silence. Death is silence. The universe dies not in fire, but in ice. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Then follows silence. Silence is scary. Shut up! Silence is scary. But what is just as scary or even scarier than silence is the behavior that comes into the world through us. The speaker was excited to be in a jazz concert with her friend's 20-year-old, and I honestly felt her excitement, and when she mentioned the phone, I just felt like, oh, I'm getting old. With almost the same expression she had. I just felt like I get that. I just felt like I could add that in. And then she goes for 4 minutes acting along the chairs, stating Okay, I think this video is getting too long now. She talks about behaviors in form of 5 chairs. The first being the jackal. We tend to misbehave the most in that chair. We tend to blame, complain, punish, gossip, and worst of all, judge. And growing up, being a Filipino in an online environment, I see this behavior virtually everywhere. We are a toxic kind, even to our own. Second is self-doubt. It is the chair where we tend to shield ourselves, where we curl up and judge ourselves from the inside. And I have a problem with this. In fact, I always criticize myself to do better, yet I always happen to doubt myself. I motivate myself just by saying, just do it. You lose more the more you don't. And I hope that works for everyone. The highest form of intelligence is the ability to observe ourselves without judging. And being in House Ravenclaw, this is gonna be tough. Yes, I am a House Ravenclaw. Third is wait, represented by a meerkat. At first, I thought of us seeing a meerkat, I thought of a sentry, which is what they are. Just waiting in defense for predators to provoke and think, what are they thinking? What am I thinking? In this chair, we get curious of what's to come, and curiosity breeds interest. Fourth, detect, represented by dolphins. I hate dolphins. It acknowledges the fact that humans are natural psychologists, and we tend to know what others are thinking, and some are just more attuned to the point where they can read people's minds. And they're really good at it, better than me. And fifth, connect, represented by a giraffe. It is the chair where we get to connect to people, relate to them, and even be with them. It is the chair where we get to understand them. The quote, "I don't like that man, I must get to know him better," is a good quote by Lincoln that challenges the judgmental thoughts coming through you from everyone. To the fact that I made a couple of friends after getting to know them, because at one point I did not like them and they did not like me, and we got to know each other and then we became friends. I found these chairs to be sort of a scale of rationality in the thought process of humans, that everything can be taken from man but one thing, the loss of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given circumstances. Not only can we change our behavior, we can also adapt our attitudes. That was a great video, like online. Next is Laura Trice's remember to say thank you. I planned to record shorter, but I recorded longer. Remembering to say thank you shows how grateful you are, even about the smallest things that affect your life. Examples are the person who let you copy their answers to a fleeting quiz, the people who just ignored your message of plead for a chance to copy their work. I am thankful towards them. Because of them, I made my own answers instead of being I would still give them my answers out of spite, and also because I don't want everyone to fail. I'm a good support player. I don't say thank you a lot, nor do I frequently receive any sort of appreciation. As a result, it feels weird just to say thank you or receive a simple thanks, or maybe I don't mind it at all. But I feel great. And although I am agnostic, I still say thank God out of reflex. And thanking him and praising him for everything, and does give you something so great that you don't even think of asking for it. Thank you for your patience, and thanks for listening.